Episode of the Cattle USA Daily Podcast. Today, we are talking something that hits home for me. And I know it hits home for a lot of other individuals within the cattle industry. And here's the fact of the matter. All of us that are here involved in production agriculture, that grew up in production agriculture, we look back on our youth, and I know that's this way for me, and I'm sure it's this way for many of my peers. And we look at it and we're like, I would not trade growing up on a ranch for anything. I learned so much at a very young age that helped me become the adult that I am today. I learned about resilience, I learned about grief, and I learned about hard work and time management and gosh, everything else. Like the concept of raising an animal builds you into an individual that you can't compare to someone that was not raised on a ranching operation or not raised in production agriculture. And it's really beautiful. But I know a lot of us can also relate to the fact that we're looking at the next generation and we're like, I want this for you. I want this ranch to be something that I can leave to you. I want you to love this ranch and I want you to love agriculture and what we're doing. And as parents, I'm not a parent myself yet, but it's something that I have spent a lot of time thinking about as a future parent. I want my kids to be involved in agriculture. What that looks like yet, Lord only knows. We're not there. But I think about this a lot, and I have a lot of friends that are parents that think about this a lot, and we've had a lot of conversations about this recently, and it's the concept of really wanting our kids to be able to stay and wanting them to love agriculture, and how do you instill that foundational success in the next generation without the pressure? Because unfortunately, a lot of my friends grew up on ranches with a lot of pressure. I'm very grateful that the ranching operation that I came, my dad built and spent a lot of years building after his dad died. But at the end of the day, he never sat there and said, you have to take this over, or I'm building this only for you, or like putting an insurmountable amount of pressure on me as a young individual to think that like I had to do this, or like the ranch was going to die. Or even as an adult now, my husband and I live about an hour and a half from the ranch, so we go back as often as we possibly can. But my brother's been home for the past multiple years. He just graduated high school this year, so he's been home for a really long time. And so when it came to shorter processing days or turning cows out to grass or things like that, that maybe they weren't entire day-long things that he really did need an extra set of hands for, he didn't even he asked for help. He was like, hey, we're doing this. If you want to come, great. But like, if not, go live your life, go do your thing, and took the pressure off. As an adult, I still experience that, but I really experienced that as a kid. Yeah, he absolutely was grinding my gears at 6 a.m. before school because I had to go and do chores. But that was different than the way that it was approached in my family was very different from a obligation to a we get to do this standpoint. And I grew up as a child of I get to do this. Don't get me wrong, there were days in the middle of winter where I did not want to get up. I wanted to stay in my PJs and not go do chores, but I learned the art of doing chores in your PJs, and the fact that if you have those really high muck boots, you can get a lot done in some fluffy PJ pants and still go back inside and go back to bed. And I learned the art of that at a very young age, but I know a lot of individuals didn't. And the reality of the situation is, if we want the next generation to want to stay on the ranch and to want to be a part of it, we have got to change our mindsets as the parental generation of people raising the individuals on this ranch. And whether your kids are 5 years old or 15 years old, or whether they're in their 30s, this is a podcast episode that I feel like can relate to everybody, because there are concepts that are going to relate to 5-year-olds, but they're also going to relate to 30-year-olds. And it is really important that we continue to not shame and to have an open conversation about this, because it can be really, really hard to talk about building the next generation within ag and what that looks like. And I do want to preface that every kid is different. Every individual is different. This is take it and leave it with what works for you. Take pieces here and there, but I hope that there's something in this episode and something in this conversation that we can glean together and that can help just shine light on your situation and as a parent wanting to leave a family legacy that doesn't backfire. So here's the first thing that I want to talk about, and it is, are you building a community within your family that doesn't put resentment towards the operation? And what I mean by this is, do you have the mindset of we have to do this or we get to do this? I kind of touched on that in my story, and that was a big part of why I feel like I enjoyed growing up on a ranch as a young individual. And now, as an adult, looking back on it, I remember the highlights and not necessarily all of the millions of times that I'm sure my dad had to try and get me up multiple times at 6 a.m. or 5 a.m. or whatever time it was to go and do chores. And it's because that was instilled in me that we get to do this. And there was joy and everything else that surrounded the activities that we were doing. It was happy and it was fun and we made it our own and we were listened to and questions were answered and things were explained. And that's a big part of it, of giving context where context is due, of, hey, there's a reason we're getting up at 5 a.m. to do chores in the middle of summer. And that's not because you have school here in a couple hours and you're going to have to leave. But the reason we still do chores at 5 a.m. in the middle of summer is because it gets really hot in the middle of the day. And we need to feed early. That way cattle can feed, water, and then lay back down to rest in a shaded area before it gets hot. And explaining those things, because if you don't take the 5 seconds to explain them and just say, because I said so, or because that's the way we do it, that's not leaving anyone with anything. And explanations can go a long way. And I think it's one of those things that we need to remember, that we are building the next generation. And with building the next generation, that comes transparency as well. So are you explaining things, but then are you also being transparent about things? It's important to be honest. If things aren't going great, you need to share that. Now, are you sharing that with a 5-year-old if your finances are plummeting? Probably not. But if you have a 15, 18-year-old on the ranch, yeah, it's important to share your finances with them. It's important to share your goals with them. What does the future look like for this operation? And continue to discuss that. Is that something that you are discussing around the dinner table of like, hey, how did your day go? What's going on the ranch? What are like the finances looking like? What are our goals looking like? Are we on track with our goals? And then what does the future look like? What are your dreams? What are your aspirations on the ranch and off the ranch? And letting those two kind of be separate sometimes too, because individuals can have goals for their futures in ag, but they can also have goals for their futures outside of ag. If you've been listening to this podcast for a while, you probably know a little bit about my background and my story, but I'll share it again for those that don't remember or that haven't heard it before. I graduated high school a semester early at 18, and I said, peace out. I wanted nothing to do with production agriculture. I saw all of the just trials and tribulations that my family went through because of a cow-calf operation and because of growing up in production ag. And I said that I didn't want anything to do with it. I was like, nope, I'm good. It was so joyous, but also I was 18 and I wanted a different future. And my family really actually pushed me to go a different path outside of agriculture and outside of specifically production ag. So I went to Lincoln and I thought that I was going to be in medical school. And I did that for a couple, 2.5 years. I was in medical school and doing all the things to go on that path. And then life changed. And then I moved back down to Manhattan and I thought I wanted to teach kids, decided I love kids, not necessarily other people's kids. So life changed again. I still second choice. I still didn't choose to go back to ag. I was at K-State and still didn't choose an ag degree. And then life changed again. And I was like, you know what? I want to go back to my roots. I want to go back to the industry that built me, the industry that I look back on and I truly have a raging passion for and want to be involved, even if it means that I might not be making as much money as I made if I was going to go be a doctor somewhere. And I came back. Took me a few years, and it took me a few years of having to be completely removed from it to remind myself of how much I needed it and how much I loved it. And so are we being transparent with our kids, and are we, when we're discussing these goals and what the future holds, allowing them that space to have a future outside of the operation as well, and not shaming them in it, and not just allowing them that space and that opportunity to not be involved? Because if that's their path, that's okay. And it might not be the path that you originally had planned for them, But I can tell you from experience as a very strong-willed individual that if you tell me what to do, I'm probably going to do the opposite. And so my parents did a great job at letting me kind of do my own thing because they knew damn well if they told me what to do or even kind of hinted at what to do, I was not going to listen. I was not going to listen in the slightest. And so it is so important that we allow space for that. And we allow space for communication and open communication through every aspect of a child's life growing up on the ranch. Are you going to tell a 5-year-old the same things that you're going to tell your 18-year-old? Absolutely not. You're not. But how are you approaching your relationship with them? How are you approaching life on the ranch? And how are you approaching the concept of we get to do this? And because I will say, your kids look up to you and the next generation looks up to you way more than you ever think that they do. They are watching, they are listening. And even if you aren't having a conversation directly with them, the way that you react to things that happen on the ranch matters. It absolutely matters. So you need to get yourself right before you can ever expect them to want to have a place in agriculture. Because if you as an individual aren't happy, you can't expect your children to be happy with an operation that you are handing down to them. They're watching you. They're looking at you. They're looking at you for advice. So if you're not happy, they're going to look at you and be like, well, mom and dad aren't happy. Why would I want this? Right? So get yourself right first. And then you can start focusing on them. And then you can start focusing on that next generation and how can we continue to foster this to be a place that you love and a place that brings joy to you and not a place that brings heartache and stress and pressure and all of these other things that can come along with it. So with this, I would be remiss if I didn't tell you some quick points of things that I think that we need to be doing and what actually needs to be done for this next generation. So first and foremost, we need connection before contribution. You need to let them belong before you expect them to buy in. And what I mean by this is every individual, every kid is going to have an aspect that they love about the ranch or the rural community or anything like that. Like let them figure that out for themselves and then let them buy in. So let them connect to the soul behind agriculture before you expect them to buy in. Next, I want you to explain the why behind tasks to an annoying degree. Honestly, like my dad still does it to this day. And I'm actually really grateful for it because there are certain aspects that still to this day, I don't fully understand. And even if I do, when he's explaining them, then we can have a great conversation about it. And then if he's explaining something that maybe either I've forgotten or that has changed or that I just didn't pay attention to the last time we did it, it's helpful. And so explain it to them at no matter what age they are, because if we know the reason behind why we're doing daily jobs, whether it be things from animal welfare to finances to just different things within a vaccination schedule or things like that, it makes us understand why. To the point that I made earlier, why are we getting up at 5 a.m. to do chores in the middle of summer? I don't have to get on the school bus in an hour and a half or 2 hours. Well, that's because XYZ, on with the story. And explaining that to a degree that is almost annoying. You're going to go through a lot of explaining your entire life. But I also find from an aspect as a producer myself of if I'm explaining things and teaching other people, it reminds me of why I'm doing things. It reminds me and it makes me think of things again of like, okay, why are we doing this certain animal welfare practice? Why are we doing this certain financial thing? Why did we choose to go with this person? It makes me second guess things, not in a negative way, but it makes me actually think about them and not just go on of like, this is the way we've always done it. It makes me actually sit there and think, is this still the best way to do this? And when I'm explaining it, I'm kind of reteaching myself, and then I'm able to better explain it to people outside of my family as well. The next thing I want you to do is I want you to invite ideas and ownership into these conversations. It can be really hard to give kids ownership over different aspects of business. But whether it be something as small as just like a suggestion, let them try it, even if it fails. One of the best things that my dad did for us was when we were young and growing up, we showed cattle. We showed cattle at a national level. We showed purebred cattle, and that was actually a big part of our business and still is it's a purebred cow-calf operation. And we still show cattle at the national level. But growing up with that, my dad wanted us to be able to show bred and own cattle. And with that, that means that we had to own the mom before the baby was born, before the calf was born. And with that, when we first started actually showing, and oh gosh, I started showing when I was 2 years old. I was walking barely, but they needed someone to be in Pee Wee showmanship and they didn't have anyone. And so I got thrown in the ring at 2 years old and started then. And I have not kicked the itch since. But with that, Dad gave us a calf when we were first starting out that transferred it to our name. And then that was our cow, and all of the babies out of them, all of the progeny, we kept all of them, the lines all the way down. And those animals are still in my name to this day. They're in my name and then the cattle operations name, every single progeny that has come out of that pairing, and then any other cattle that I've bought. He also gave us the opportunity at a very young age to go get an FHA loan you can go get an FHA loan as a young individual within agriculture and get a loan to go buy cows. And he gave us that opportunity to do that, and it gave us the opportunity to sit down with a banker and explain why we were buying the cows and how it was going to help us and what we were going to do with the money and everything. Oh gosh, I think I was probably 10 or 11 when I did that. And I didn't really know what I was doing, but it opened my eyes up to a different aspect of the business and made me understand loans and operational loans and getting a loan to get cows. And then the FHA officer would come out once a year and be like, all right, show me your cows. What's going on? Tell me how's it going? And all of those things, and talk to me about the loan. And we were given the opportunity to try things. And within that cow herd, we were given the opportunity to make breeding decisions. And if a breeding decision went extremely well, amazing. And if it failed, guess whose fault that was? Me and mine alone. And that was really empowering because it taught me, an insurmountable amount of lessons, from just life skills lessons of owning and operating a business alongside another business. Because guess what? We still had to pay for our hay. I still had to pay for grain. I still had to pay a lot of things, even though the cows were in my name and they were running with my dad's cows and all of those things. I still had to pay the big operation at the end of the year. And just for a financial reason, we didn't actually trade money back and forth. He was like, okay, so you have 3 calves this year. These were your expenses. This is what the calf market is looking like. You're going to sell me one of the, like, quote unquote, sell me one of these calves, and that's going to pay your bills for the year. And it taught me a lot. And I attribute a lot of my joy that I had as a young individual and a lot of the ownership that I felt like I was able to grow and the leadership positions that I was able to get into. I can attribute a lot of them to that, to my parents letting me have ownership over a certain aspect of the operation. And then the next point that I had was show them the business. And this goes right back into what I was just talking about. So that's the age-appropriate, financial, transparent, talking to them about the project, like the management softwares that you're using. How is your Excel spreadsheet organized? How are breeding decisions made? How are, like, all of these things? Show them the business side of the business, not just like, hey, we got to go feed hay today, or we're working cows, or we're checking cows, or we're calving out, or doing all of those things. Like, yeah, that's a big part of the business, but show them the behind the scenes of the books and the actual business behind it and all of the goals and thoughts and everything that goes into that. And then along with the goals aspect, I want you to ask them about their goals. And even if that means goals outside of agriculture, ask them about their goals. And I encourage you to listen to all of them. And I encourage you to encourage them to have goals within agriculture and within the operation, and then goals outside of it too. Because that shows that, like, hey, we can have balance. I'm not asking you to just have goals within the production side. I'm not asking you to have goals just within our business. I'm also asking you to, like, have goals with your basketball team. Like, if you're loving basketball or football right now, I want you to go have goals with that. And I want you to go kick butt doing those things and truly just allow yourself to build a generation that doesn't resent the operation, because it's all of their life. You want the operation to be a part of their life, but you don't want it to be all of their life, because a big part of the individuals that I grew up with that are no longer involved in production ag, I think it was because it was their whole life. They didn't go on vacations. They didn't experience the world. They didn't get to experience culture They didn't get to experience doing anything outside of the ranch. And so then they went to adulthood and they were like, screw the ranch. I'm going to go travel the world. I'm going to go experience things. I'm going to go live and learn culture and start a business and do all of these things that I didn't have the opportunity to do or didn't feel like I had the opportunity to do alongside the ranch. It is really important that we look at the ranch as an aspect of our lives, not our whole lives. Because if it's our whole lives, that's where resentment comes from. Because if you're not able to go do something that your heart or God is calling you to do because of the ranch, that's where resentment comes from. So don't use the ranch as a place where, like, hey, this is all we are doing and this is all you get to do. Let it be a part of their lives and let it be something that you build together. Let it be something that your kids look at and they say, this is ours, not this is mom and dad's. And celebrate all of the wins that come with that. Celebrate all of the little things and celebrate them big because the wins don't always come all the time. And so wins on and off the ranch. Like if sports are going great, if school's going great, awesome. Like absolutely support those wins and then support the wins on the ranch with equal amounts of fervency with that. And I want to close with the fact that if they don't want to stay, that's okay. That's really okay. It's going to be uncomfortable. It's not fun to sit there, but I'm a testament to someone who didn't want to stay and now can't imagine my life without it multiple years down the road. Give them 6, 8 years, they're going to come crawling back. And if they don't, that's still okay. There is going to be someone else who might not be your kid, but maybe they're a neighbor down the road that just moved to your community and they're starting out in production agriculture and they really need someone willing to take a chance on them. And maybe that's your opportunity. Maybe it wasn't your kid that wants to carry it on, but someone will. Someone will carry it on. And here's my thing about wrapping it all up. Putting it all in a happy bow is you don't have to be perfect. No one is going to get this right every single day. Every single time, are you going to get this right? Are you going to lead with joy and contentment and just love? No, not every day. And you don't have to be perfect. I'm just asking you to be present. Be present and be willing to listen and be willing to be an individual that isn't going to push these kids in ways that they don't want to go. Lead without the pressure. Lead with purpose. Lead with ways that they can be involved in their own way. Because I am a testament to someone who said, I'm out, and then came running back a few years later. So no matter what it looks like when they do turn 18 and they decide to go on with their own lives, let it be okay. Let it be okay with whatever it's going to be, but do what you can now before they get to that point to continue to foster love for the operation. And then if you have kids that are graduated and out of the house, continue to foster that. Continue to not put pressure on them I have expressed multiple times to my family now, like, hey, I want to be here. I want to be involved. I want to love this. But they don't call me every single week saying, hey, we need you to come home. Hey, we need this. Hey, we need that. It's more of a like, hey, once or twice a month, it's, hey, if you want to come home, we're doing this weekend and we'd love to have you. But if you've got other things going on in your life, like go live your life, go be young, go enjoy your vacations, go do all the things. But if you want to come, we're doing this weekend. So I want to close out there. You don't have to be perfect. Just be present. Love them anyway. And no one's perfect. And that's uncomfortable, but it is also beautiful. So that's what I encourage all of you to do. I encourage all of you to start having great conversations with your kids. Ask them about their operation, ask them what they love, ask them what they don't love, and just start to involve them in any way that you possibly can. As always, thank you to everyone who is listening today. I appreciate you tuning in to another episode and listening to me yap and share a little bit more about my story and how personal we got today. I appreciate your guys' openness and just willingness to be with us every single day on this podcast. We appreciate all of you guys as listeners. And as always, make sure you like, subscribe, rate, review. Seriously, if you take 30 seconds to go do those things, it means the world to us in every aspect. No matter what platform you're on, if you're on YouTube, go like this episode. Make sure you're subscribed. If you're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever all of the other ones we post on, make sure you go give us a 5-star rating It really, really helps us get amazing more guests on and just continue to grow this free content for you guys. So, as always, thank you. I hope you guys have a blessed rest of your day, and we'll see you all tomorrow on another episode. Have a good one, y'all.